Hey, so I recently was asked if I could talk a little bit about what a newcomer to Sweden can expect. So in today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the most important bureaucratic steps, and I wanted to give you a few tips about what you can do to help yourself to feel at home in Sweden. Oh, and I keep forgetting to mention it in my videos. I started a membership here on this YouTube channel. I can show you where you can sign up. And basically, it's a membership for you who are interested in the life of Sweden. And I will show you a few behind the scenes pictures, but also a little bit more details, some more pictures, some more tips. And also, if you want to ask me any questions in this membership, I will answer them straight away. I know sometimes I answer a little bit later just because there's life, but in the membership, I will also make sure to answer straight away as soon as I sit in front of my screen again. And then the membership is just there for you to connect with me and also to tell me what you want to see, how I can help. Okay, let's start with the first steps of moving to Sweden. First of all, congratulations. You might have already moved to Sweden and are super new, or you just got a job or an opportunity to move to Sweden and you're very excited. So I just want to help you a little bit to navigate your new life in Sweden. So first of all, register with a Swedish tax agency called Skatteverket. So when you're planning to stay more than a year, then it's very important to register at Skatteverket, because what you need, what's almost most important, is a personnummer. With that number, you can basically do everything. It's kind of like you will be registered in the system of Sweden, and you can open a bank account, you can receive healthcare and these kind of things. There are ways around it if you don't have a personnummer, but it's quite complicated. Sweden does make it quite complicated. So if you can get that sorted out first thing when you move to Sweden, you already have probably half of the things sorted out you need to do here in Sweden. Then also make sure you obtain the necessary permits. If you're not from the EU, then you might need a work permit or a residence permit. So you have to register with the Swedish migration agency, Migrationsverket, and then you take it from there. They have all the forms you need to fill out and answer the questions, and but if you're not from the EU, that's something you have to do as well, as important as Skatteverket. And then the next step would be to find a place to live, right? So I mentioned this a few times in my videos. It's maybe not the easiest thing in Sweden, especially in like bigger cities like Stockholm, but it's definitely not impossible, and you should not stress about it. You will find a way, there's definitely a way. When we moved here to Sweden, we just rented an Airbnb, and we didn't know how long we will need to rent it, but we ended up doing it 2 months, and then we found a rental property. Well, you can also buy a place, so either look on Hemnet to buy a place, or if you want to rent, then Blocket is a good address. But then there's also an agency we used, and it's called Samtruk. It is not cheap, but for us it was basically part of the rental amount. So only later we saw how much we actually pay to the agency from our rental. We felt very good and safe about it, because you have the agency. If anything goes wrong, they also had our deposit, so it didn't go to the owners, because I don't know, you never know. Even though our landlords were okay, they were complicated people, let's say that. We just were quite happy not to rent anymore. But this is what you maybe need to do at the beginning. And Samtruk was really good because it was all quite sorted with them. Then you should also open a bank account. And here it can also get a little bit complicated. It depends. Normally you need a personnummer to open up a bank account. So it can be quite tricky to maybe open up an account when you don't have the personnummer. And you do need a bank account. You want your salary to come in there. You need to pay bills and that kind of stuff. So hopefully you will have the personnummer. There are ways around it to get it before you receive your personnummer, but it's not easy. Not every bank, or let's say not every employee in the bank, will kind of allow you this. So you have to probably call around or meet up with some some people to make it happen, but they definitely want to see like a contract, with your employer or new employer. So you do have to give a few securities to sign up for a bank account. And then you also want to, of course, like a Swedish mobile number. I think that's just convenient when you move to a new country. And luckily, I found that the prices here are actually not too bad. There are other countries where it's much more expensive. And I think Germany is actually one of those countries where it's not super cheap. Well, you can get a SIM card without a contract or a monthly contract. I think mine, I can actually cancel each month, and I pay about 99 kronas. And then also get healthcare. I mean, this might not be a super priority step to do, but it's definitely something you might want to sort out. And once you got your personnummer, you can just register with a vårdcentral, which is basically just a healthcare center. And then you're just registered, and whenever you need to go to the doctor, you can just go there. I remember that I got pregnant quite early on when we moved here to Sweden, and I kind of had to find a midwifery center, which I did, and I went there, and I didn't have my personnummer, but they took me on anyway, so that was not a problem. So it's not that you always need the personnummer to be, accepted or treated. I also didn't get billed or anything. I don't know if it also had to do anything with me being a EU citizen. But yeah, it was very easy, and I didn't have any problems going to the doctor without a personnummer at the beginning. And then I just gave them my number a little bit later. And then the last bit might not be the first thing you need to do, and also maybe it takes a little bit longer to kind of fulfill this step, but it is to learn the language. I'm in the middle of learning the language. I'm really on it, and then I let it slide a little bit, which is maybe not the best approach. But I know how important it is to learn the language, because I believe you finally feel at home when you can understand the people and are able to talk with, the locals in their local language. I mean, luckily, I mentioned that a few times. In Sweden, pretty much everyone talks English, and really well. But maybe the downside is that the Swedes themselves don't think that their English is that great. Some are very scared of talking in English because they are not used to it. They maybe learned it, and their English is really well, but they're just a bit scared to talk about it. I encountered a few times now, especially with parents, where they went quite quiet, or the conversation wouldn't flow as much, just because I could tell they didn't feel very comfortable speaking in English, although anything they said was perfect English. So that's just a thing, so maybe learning a little bit the language. I mean, I pretty much tell now everyone I'm learning, and if they want to talk a little bit in Swedish, they can do that, because I need to learn it myself. So that already breaks a little bit the ice, because then they can speak their native language, and I'm in the reverse role where I'm the one who is a bit shy talking in Swedish and hesitating. But learn the language. You can start at any time. You can do it on your own pace and however you want. You start with words, a little bit of grammar here and there, and start reading and watching things in Swedish. And then one thing I wanted to mention is get insurance. This might sound a little bit dull, and maybe it's not always necessary, but it's probably something you should know. There are different insurances, of course. There's a property insurance, like a home insurance, healthcare insurance. Property insurance, I think we definitely have that, especially when you buy a house, or even when we rented a house, we had an insurance. It's just when there's a burglary, or, if anything happens inside the home, which is not your fault, or you can actually claim insurance. Healthcare insurance, you technically don't need it, but if you maybe keep yourself updated, you sometimes hear that the Swedish healthcare system is great, but it has suffered a little bit in the past years, maybe decade, based on, staff and the logistics. So waiting times can be really long. So it depends how much healthcare you need and how satisfied you are. I don't have healthcare insurance because, apart from a little negative experience, I'm still quite happy with it. So we'll see how it goes. But I heard of others, they would go private and have an extra healthcare insurance. And I know that also, and I'm a little bit guilty of that, not having it, but there's an insurance for children. For example, when your child gets ill, and I'm not talking about a few days, but serious illness, and you need to stay at home with the child to take care of it, there's an insurance for it so that you get paid every day you stay awake from work. So that might be something you are interested in. I want to put it out here. I have not done it yet. I'm not sure if we really need it. I'm always a bit skeptical about insurances. Some are necessary and some are not. So it's up to you what kind of insurance you want. And then one thing which is maybe obvious, but I wanted to mention it anyway, register for utilities. So just when you rent or when you buy a house, you just need to be aware that there will be some extra costs, especially when you buy a house. You want to look into what kind of extra fees you also have to pay, but then there's also registering for electricity and water. So once you have done the first steps, or finding, for example, somewhere to live, that should be on your list as well. And the last tips are less bureaucratic, but more about how life in Sweden can be, or how to improve your life here. And that means, for example, your social life. Make sure to familiarize with local customs and cultures. Each country has their own unique culture and customs. Wherever you move, you should definitely familiarize yourself. And here in Sweden, of course, there are also local customs and cultures you should definitely learn about, because it will help you to get along in Sweden better. One of them, which is a fun one, is the fika. I mentioned it a few times. Definitely embrace it, and if you have new Swedish colleagues, they will probably tell you about it, but definitely say yes and enjoy the time, drink your coffee and have something nice and sweet and chat with your new colleagues. That's how you bond, same when you meet anyone else, like new friends. That's what you should do. But then there's also something like personal space. You should know Swedish people are quite reserved at the beginning, especially. They don't want to intrude in your space. They want to respect you, and they want the same for themselves. So if someone is just in their face, and all over them, it could scare them away a little bit. So just respect their personal space. And that also means, the distance sometimes. Some Swedes just don't like you to stand really close to them. They need their physical space, but also when it comes to, conversations and privacy, especially when you meet new people. And another thing which you should be aware of, and what Swedes care about, and that's equality. There's a strong commitment to equality and social justice. Make yourself familiar with it, and again, respect it. People want to be treated with respect and fairness. So that's something you should definitely consider when moving here. Maybe it feels like common sense to some. I would say, yeah, equality, I definitely care about it. I would want to live in a country where this matters, but in other countries it might not be the case, or people are not growing up with equality. So definitely look into that and respect it. I mentioned this here, but punctuality is also a thing. I come from Germany. I would say we have the same rules, but be punctual. It's just showing, again, a matter of respect to others, that you care about them. And when you said you'll be there somewhere, at a certain time, then do that. I know that there are many countries, especially in the south, where there is just a rule that, you don't have to show up at 3, although you said you're coming at 3. That's definitely not the case. Now we are in the north of Europe, so be punctual. And last but not least, there's so many nice festivities like Midsummer, so find a way to really celebrate it. There are public places where they celebrate and you literally can just join, or you find some friends who can introduce you to Midsummer. Just embrace it and really get into it. I feel like we celebrated now a few times, but still I'm very excited to experience the next Midsummer, because there's so many details because I still don't know and I want to know everything about it and especially experience it. And then just on the topic of making friends, just a little overview of what you could do to actually meet people here in Sweden. I think the easiest way to meet people is like through common interests, for example. So you already have something to talk about. So for example, there are sports clubs, and Sweden is quite big on like sports and exercise. So you have the gyms you can join, or any sports club like ice hockey or football. There's a lot here, of course, as well. So whatever your interest is, whatever your hobby is, find a club near you, or if you're happy to travel, as long as it fits. I know that my partner is a really big badminton fan, so he managed actually to get some of his colleagues join him now, and now every Tuesday morning he is playing and the group is actually growing. So definitely that's a good connection you can have there through sports. But also language exchange groups could be a very interesting way to meet some other people. Maybe there are some Swedes out there who would teach you Swedish, and in return they would like to learn another language. So whatever language you speak, you can see if you can meet some other people through that and start a little club. Another really nice way, I think, to meet locals or other people is through volunteering. So in Sweden also there are a lot of volunteer groups in different areas, like it could be animals, it could be at the church. So find the right thing for you. If you have a bit of time, maybe at the weekend, make sure to meet some people and you have a common interest of helping others. I think that's a really good start to make new friends. And last but not least, how you can feel more at home here in Sweden is to explore the country. I mean, you learn best by doing, right? So going out there, see, the beauty of nature, the history of Sweden. There are many festivities, many places to go where you can just explore what is Sweden like, what Swedes are like. I think by knowing more about the country, you will probably fall in love. And then also, when you talk to Swedes, you can tell them where you have been, and that basically shows also your interest in the country. And I think everyone feels quite nice when there is someone who cares about their country, who knows a little bit about their country, maybe about their language as well. And again, you have a very nice connection between you and the Swede or the other person. So these are just a few tips when you're new to Sweden, when you just arrived or you are about to move. These are good tips. But I just want to close this video with saying that you need to be patient. Even a few months sometimes are not enough to feel home. You need time to settle in, to sort out your bureaucracy, and also, you need time to maybe start visiting a club or exploring the country. I feel like I live here now 1 year and 9 months, so only now we're really starting to explore the country, to move around a little bit more than Stockholm, just because life is busy as well. But we also know we want to stay long, so we take our time a little bit and adapt in our own pace. Be patient. It will definitely come to you and you will enjoy Sweden if you don't do it already. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Hej då!